Hi, it's Wasif, Pharmacy Dad from Eye Care Pharmacy. And I want to talk to you about the outbreaks we're having at school right now. So we are getting quite a few absenteeism at a lot of the schools. So some schools it's up to 25% absenteeism. It's quite high due to various respiratory illnesses. So it's not just COVID related. You have uh, kind of a trifecta of things having an influence. So you have the COVID, you have the flu, and then you also have the RSV. So I know Margaret Ann, I think it's Margaret Ann by the pharmacy there, Dr. Margaret Ann. Their rates are about 18%. So I just want to talk about what you can do to have to keep your little ones safe and to encourage them to continue to be healthy while they attend school. So number one is to kind of make sure that they're up to date on their immunizations. As I discussed, the flu is also having an impact in terms of how many kids are sick at home. So it's a good idea to make sure that they're up to date with their flu shot, particularly this year, as we kind of talked about before how the flu is supposed to be particularly bad this year, and I think you're kind of seeing that come to fruition now. It was just part of the reason why so many kids are at home sick. Also, as well, make sure they're up to date on their COVID shots as well. And then for kids that are 12 and up, they are eligible for the new COVID shot, the Omicron, which is the bivalent, helps protect against there's a Pfizer that they'd be eligible for, which protects them against BA4 and BA5. So a good idea, just make sure that they're up to date on their vaccinations. It's not a bad idea to just mask up at school, especially when they're up and about away from their desk. But in general, it's a good idea to mask up. Just with so many kids sick and so many, you know how kids are, they're getting their hands on everything, they're touching everything. So, and it's a good idea that, they mask up and, everyone being, how do you say, more susceptible, being that you have these kids at school, the masking is going to help to kind of reduce their risk of potentially getting an infection. Of course, something that we learned from the pandemic, it's a good idea for frequent hand washing as well as disinfecting of surfaces. So the one thing I would suggest is just review with them techniques for hand washing. I know, and then with kids, you do have to repeat your messages quite a bit. Like you can tell them once, but you probably have to repeat it 6 or 7 times before it sinks in. With the hand washing, it might be a good idea to kind of show them a video on YouTube. I'm going to upload a video later today in regards to techniques to hand washing, so you can kind of check out our channel, YouTube channel at Eye Care Pharmacy, just to see the techniques you can use to promote proper hand washing, especially getting, in between the fingers, making sure everything is super, super clean. And then, of course, a frequent disinfecting of surfaces, especially their desk. I mean, most kids do have the hand sanitizer right at their desk there. So that can go a long way in terms of just helping out to make sure that, everything, all the surfaces that they're working on is clean, minimizing the risk of getting an infection. I mean, nothing obviously is foolproof, but we want to do what we can at the end of the day. At home and at school, you want to promote healthy eating and frequent hydration. I think, this is one that's common sense, but sometimes hard to execute, especially when it's around Halloween. I joked in the blog that I wrote this week that candy corn does not count as a vegetable. They have to have actual vegetables. Okay, you got to help them out in terms of keeping their immune system nice and healthy. And I know if the holiday season is coming up right now, there's gonna be lots of snacks that they're gonna be able to get their hands on. But we want to encourage just like a balanced diet. Also, as well, keep well hydrated. Keeping well hydrated is important just because it's going to help to keep the mucous barriers nice and healthy, preventing any foreign invaders being able to penetrate. Also, as well, it helps to just promote the immune system by um, transporting cytokines and immune cells to where they need to go when there is a potential infection. Another thing to look at is you do want to have some structure at home and some routines at home that encourage healthy sleep. So you want to make sure that they are getting a full night's rest just because they find patients that have like a good 8 hours sleep are better able to fight infections because they are um, producing more of an immune response, whether there's our immune cells or cytokines, versus patients who have not had a full night's sleep. They don't produce as strong of an immune response. So it's a good idea to just make sure that they are getting a good amount of healthy sleep, and that might mean like if they're going to bed like at 9 o'clock or something like that, you want to start like a wind down routine, maybe 7:30, that sort of thing, just so they're turning off their devices. You don't want to necessarily consume TV right before sleep. So you want to encourage these healthy habits that will facilitate them getting to sleep on time and having a good restful sleep. Also, as well, I wanted to talk about just the consumption of digital media, just because I know it's not directly related to the high levels of absenteeism and rates of infection right now, but I find over the last 2 years, we kind of moved our life from offline to online quite a bit. So, we are quite a bit more on Facebook. We're on quite a bit more on Instagram and um, watching more YouTube, those sort of things. So this kind of came about just because my little one Atlas at home, I found that he loves his cocoa melon, but I found when we gave him too much cocoa melon, he went a little crazy. He goes a little bit crazy with the biting because he's kind of going through a teething stage right now. But we noticed that when you put too much of the cocoa melon on, gets really hyper and is kind of jumping off the walls, and he's he's gnawing at our fingers and our legs and that sort of thing, right? But when we were able to kind of reduce the amount of YouTube that he was watching, found that his behavior changed. So that was a big eye opener for me personally. And I and to kind of counteract that, what we did was we're encouraging him more just to read at home rather than watching TV. Also, as well, he loves to play with his cousins. So we'll always try to get them together. So, they have that opportunity to, build on their relationship because they're so young and have more of that emotional well being. And it's a great learning opportunity for him too, because he looks up quite a bit to his cousins and they're older than him. So it helps to build his social skills, excuse me, helps to build his social skills. And it's just an opportunity for him just to learn in general. So, yeah, so, that's kind of how we've been managing that. And I think just with so many things moving online right now, it's easy to get lost in an online world. And I think it is having a negative impact on our mental health, and we can kind of get lost in what is real and what is not real when most of our interaction is online. So it's great to encourage just kind of more real world interactions and less time spent in the digital world. Um, Another tip I have, this one I think a lot of people will appreciate. If your kid is not feeling well, just don't send them to school or her to school. It may be that they just have even like a small cold or cough, but you don't know if it's going to progress to a fever. You don't know if it's going to progress to a respiratory illness. Alberta Health Services, they have guidelines online that you can view, and I'll leave a link of it in the description below. But they have guidelines there, and they say if you have like a cold or a little bit of a cold, and you want to like monitor for 24 hours, see if it progresses to something more serious, and then based on that, you can kind of determine whether to send them to school or not. So it'll do their classmates and their teachers a great service if you do keep him or her home if they do have a little bit of a cold. So yeah, if they're not feeling well, just keep them at home, and it'll be great for them, and it'll be great for everyone else at the school, and it'll go a long way in helping to kind of especially keep those rates of absenteeism down, those rates of infections down. Anyways, thanks so much for listening. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Take care. Bye.